teaching? Have you stressed? Need to laugh off that disaster of a parent-teacher conference? Ready to indulge in those "I wish I could say that" moments? You're in luck, because you've just pressed play on the top-rated teacher comedy podcast on the planet. It's time for Crying in My Car, a podcast for teachers. Here's your host, the teacher comedian himself, Devin Seabold.
Heyo, Crying in My Car, podcast for teachers. I'm your host, Devin Seabold. Hopefully everybody's having a wonderful week. Mine has been nothing short of absolutely exhausting. I'll get to that in just a second. To be sure to support the podcast, patreon.com/cryinginmycar. Also, I have a Kickstarter out for my new children's book called A Teacher in the Wild. If you have not reserved your copy, please do. It's about halfway to its goal. The way it works is you reserve your copy of the book ahead of time. It's like $15, $5 even for an ebook, and you can get an autographed copy. You can even get your name in the book. And essentially, when it reaches that goal that it has, then they release the funds to me. I'm able to pay to print the book and mail them out and send them to everybody. It's not a huge money maker. It's a passion project of mine. I really want to put out a children's book, and so the rates are not $50 for a book. It's literally $15, and these are hardcover books. So if you have not yet supported A Teacher in the Wild, trust me, it is the cutest book. Izzy B illustrated it. It is absolutely going to be outstanding. I think your students will love it. I think you'll love it. Your kids will love it. You can pass it on, donate a copy to the library, whatever you want to do. But please do support that Kickstarter. Just look up A Teacher in the Wild by Devin Seabold, and there it is. Also, oh man, it has been. I'm like, I look flustered, and the reason I look flustered, let me tell you real quick about my week, last week and this week. So last Monday, I flew to Sacramento, which was a journey. Anyways, I get to Sacramento, long flights, check into the hotel. I'm doing a keynote speaking engagement for Aries Software. Their educational software. They're fantastic. They put on an amazing convention, and I got to speak for them that morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I perform at 8 o'clock in the morning. I have the day off in Sacramento. The time change threw me way off. I was not ready. I was tired by 5:30 their time. I'm ready to go to bed. I got to fly out the next morning super early at like 6 o'clock. So I get to the Sacramento airport at like 4 o'clock in the morning. By the way, one of the biggest tricks of being a touring comedian slash speaker is learning which airports you need to arrive in early and which ones you don't. Because let me tell you right now, I've flown out of Santa Fe. That is a airport where you can arrive 5 minutes before the flight. You can actually arrive after the flight scheduled to leave, because there's only one flight going out that day with 3 people on it, and if 30% is missing, they don't have it go. So they'll wait on you. It's literally the smallest airport in the world. Sacramento, one of the smaller airports. I thought it'd be huge. I don't know why, but I was thinking Sacramento, capital of California, that it would be this massive metropolis. It was not. It was a little smaller than I thought it would be. Airport quite small. Got through, sat down, waited forever. Had a really interesting flight over to Michigan. So I'm flying out of Michigan at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm leaving Sacramento. Fly into San Diego, fly over to Denver, fly over to Michigan. It was a 2-stop flight. Ugh, exhausting. I get to Michigan I land at 5:45. My show that I'm the opener for with Adam Ferrara starts at 7. It is 20 minutes from the airport. I have a half an hour window to make this happen. Folks, it's one of those things that you can't help but just laugh. I mean, as mad as you are, as much as you want to just throw your fists in the air, the hilarity of this event is unmatched. I'm on my last plane ride, getting ready to board, getting ready to go to Denver. So it was this is how it worked. I flew from San Diego to Denver. On the same plane, it's going to Grand Rapids. So I don't get off the plane, which is great because I'm on Southwest and I get to choose my seat. So I move into a nicer seat. I'm front row, staring out the window, relaxing, waiting for the, new people to come on board. And I look out my window and I see something I've never seen before as a frequent flyer. I saw about, and this is not an exaggeration, about 6 cars full of luggage. And it was like, yeah, and I'm not talking about like just one of the things times 6. I'm talking one of the big trains that they have where they have like 4 or 5 things with luggage full. 6 of those. So we're talking, 24 of those giant things full of luggage, and it had tarps over it. And I was like, wow, they are busy today. There's a lot of planes that are apparently coming into this particular spot, and they're just, they must be very backed up. No, no, they weren't. Folks, the United States Air Force hockey team was on my plane. I have one small bag that I checked, and the only reason I checked it, because it was carry-on size, is because it had the rollers. I hate putting the rollers up in the thing and shifting everything around. I just carry my backpack. I check this luggage. Um, I have a 30-minute window to make my show. And all 6 of those luggage carts are getting loaded onto my plane. The most luggage I've ever seen in my entire life, because every single hockey player on that team had sticks, had gear, had pucks, apparently was also taking half of their apartment. I don't know what they had. Personal bags, they had sports bags, they had, I mean, everything. Think of all the equipment that a single hockey player has on the on a hockey whatever court, field, whatever they call it, rink, I guess, maybe, I don't know. And times that by 12 for each of them. And there's 40 players plus coaches, all their bags. I've never seen anything like this. Folks, I got off the plane early. We arrived early. I had almost an hour window. Would you believe that I went over to the carousel to wait for my bags? And my bag, since I was the stayover, I was already on the plane, was in the very back, apparently, of all the luggage. And I had to wait for each and every single hockey bag to come through there. And there were hundreds. I was standing at the carousel waiting for my bag for over an hour, and it never stopped unloading. How this plane got off the ground, I have no idea. None. I mean, we should not have flown. There was so much luggage from these, and I was like, this is my luck. I have a small window that I can normally run downstairs, grab my bag off the luggage cart, and just go, and I'll be fine. And I'm staring at my, and this is how confident I was. This is so stupid. I went through 2 lifts waiting for this luggage. And what I mean by that is I got to the luggage thing and I said, all right, the luggage cart thing started to move. I said, all right, the lift will be here in 15 minutes. I'll go ahead and reserve it. My bag will be out in 15 minutes. No, lift came. I got a no-show charge. I had to message the guy. Totally sorry. Waiting on hockey team. Never ending. And then halfway through that, the luggage is still coming out. And I go, all right. I look again at my lift. The next lift rise 15 minutes away. Let me reserve it again. This one I'll for sure make. Oh, the optimism. Oh, the optimism. It was unwarranted because I did not make it. I had 2 no-show lifts in a row. And then I had to take a taxi because I didn't want to risk it, not being there, not coming. And the taxi's hauling butt. I mean, I get to the show. I'm running up the stairs with my luggage in my hand. I walk into the green room. I'm like, hey, Adam, nice to see you. How's everybody doing? The host is like, what's your intro? I'm like this. And then I go up on stage. And folks, I mean, I mean to tell you that I literally left the airport and went onto stage. Ew, do you know how tired I was that night? I was so exhausted, and it's way worse going from West Coast to East Coast. The jet lag is terrible, and it's not that bad when you're only crossing over 2 time zones, but when you had to go through 3 flights that day, waiting for the luggage, Ubers and lifts and checking in and out of hotels and all that other stuff. Oh my God, it was exhausting. So then I perform in Michigan. I'm in this hotel, and the hotel is not bad. It's a Baymont Inn. It's not upscale, but my room was not bad. Only thing was is I didn't have a rental car. Nearby, there's a McDonald's and a gas station. The McDonald's is drive-through only, so I can't go to the McDonald's. So I have to live out of a gas station for 4 days because I'm in Michigan for 4 days. I live out of the gas station. Everything, every meal was out of the gas station. Microwave, morning breakfast sandwiches, lunch, some chicken tenders, a hot dog. I did try to eat a little healthier, had some salads, had some wraps. But gas station food, man, after the second day, you're really questioning your life choices at that point. Gas station food's one of those things where you think, okay, yeah, I'll just grab something. But when it's the only thing you can grab, it no longer has the charm. It really lost its charm quick. And then so I'm there for 4 days performing with Adam. Had a great time, by the way. Fantastic shows. All the people that came out, totally appreciate you. And then I go over to Illinois. So I perform on Saturday. I go to Grand Rapids Airport. I catch a taxi with Adam, which, by the way, let me tell you something fun. I had not had a real meal the entire time I was there. So the morning that I'm meeting up with Adam, we have to meet at 10, and I get to downtown Grand Rapids. He's staying in a really nice hotel in Grand Rapids, and I get down there because I saw some great breakfast restaurants, and I went into one and I had the best breakfast. It's one of those things where you're not even sure if it's a great breakfast. You just know that you've had gas station breakfast for the last 4 days. And so this breakfast is just amazing, like one of the best breakfasts I've ever had. And so I'm enjoying my day, getting ready to get started. I get in the rental car. I'm driving to Indiana. I stop, by the way, at some weird places. So in Indiana, there's sorry, not in Indiana. I'm driving to Illinois, but I drive through Indiana. While I'm in Indiana, there's the Great Lakes shores, like the dunes or something like that. It's a state park. I stop at this place called the oh, what is it? It's the old schoolhouse. By the way, coolest thing in the entire world. It was an old schoolhouse that was turned into like a random gift shop. They didn't have a whole lot of cool stuff in there. It was just like junky kind of tourist stuff. But they did have a nice cafe. You could sit outside, and plus, it was an old schoolhouse. It was beautiful. I did think it quite ironic that it was on the same plot of land as a graveyard. So, like, teachers could stare out the window and imagine a better future. But it was exhausting. That drive was good though. It was nice time to kind of decompress, and I could get hot food on the way. And then I stopped also at this place which I'd never heard of before. And if you've heard of it, it's you got to know what it is. But it was like Fair Oaks Farm or Fairfield Farm or something like that. There was a giant farm that was a tourist attraction. And like you could rent a golf cart and drive around like through the barns and see all this, but it wasn't like you think. It was an industrial type, like really modern, super modern farm. The one thing that I did get out of that, I did not go into the touristy part of it where you learn, looked like a hands-on museum. They had their own hotel. That tells you how impressive this place was. It was really nice. But and let me, if you haven't ate yet, turn this off. I had a pumpkin pie cheesecake that changed my life. It was the greatest thing I've ever had in my entire life. It was absolutely delicious. Pumpkin pie cheesecake and a little thing of milk. Oh, it was so delicious. So then I'm driving to Illinois. I get to the venue, Watsika Theater. I performed there. Fantastic show. Good people. Had about 70 people come to the show in the middle of nowhere. I'm very thankful. By the way, so many of my fans drove like 2-3 hours to the shows over the week. Wow. I mean, honestly, let me tell you another side note before I get to the last part of my week. Um, I'm weird when I'm fans come to meet me. I'm in awe of you just as much as you are in awe of me. I don't know if that makes sense. I often feel like I don't present myself well to fans because I don't really know what to say. Like people will come up to me and be like, I've been a fan for so long. And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you so much. But I feel like I owe you so much more. And it's not like a guilt feeling. It's a pride feeling. Like I'm so happy that I have people that want to come see me and pay for, tickets and go and travel and that they love my comedy. And so when I meet people, I'm like shocked. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is so cool. I haven't gotten accustomed to that yet, and I don't know that I ever will, but meeting fans I'm more just so you know, I'm not being rude. I'm being like starstruck. Like I'm like, wow, like this is a cool moment. This is the one thing you have to know about me. If you know me, you know this is true. Is I am very much in the moment person. I love life. I love it. I love, I go outside and there's a cool breeze and I will reflect on that cool breeze for 20 minutes and I'll go, wow, look at the sun shining. Feel that air. Oh, this is so cool. This is such a nice day. I'm really one of those endless, ridiculously optimistic people who finds the good in every moment. And so when I meet a fan, it's one of those things where I'm just absorbing it. I'm like, this is so cool. Wow, you drove so far for me. I feel like I owe you gas money. Like, I feel like, I wish I could buy, I wish all the shows were free. I really do. So that I could just get everybody in free tickets, enjoy. I'm more about the creating the experience and the laughter and enjoying life and events than the whole business side of it. I hate that part of it. Um, and so I perform in Watsika. This is the thing. I have a flight going out the next morning, and I actually had a flight going out at 1:45 p.m., but it was on Southwest, and they were canceling everything. And I said, I got to get out early because the first flights are usually the ones that make it off the ground. And so I changed my flight to a 6:45 in the morning. I performed that night and left the venue at about 10 o'clock at night. I went and drove towards the airport and found a rest stop, and I slept in the rest stop for about 5 hours. Then I know slept in the rest stop. So I slept in the rest stop for about 5 hours. I go to the airport. I get on the plane. The plane has two stops. Thankfully, nothing was delayed. I went to Baltimore and then flew from Baltimore home. I get home at about 12:30. I have to get my kids that afternoon. So I come home and I can't wait to see my children. And then I see my kids and my kids walk through the door and Liam hugs me and says, love you, Dad. Kid missed you. And I'm so happy to be home. And then Gavin hugs me and says, love you, Dad. Missed you. And I was like, are you sick? And he's like, yeah, I don't feel good. And I was like, oh no, please no. Oh, please don't let this be. I was hoping to have the next day to where I could recuperate and take them to school and come home and sleep. I was so exhausted. Please don't be sick. Of course he was sick. And they were both very sick. Like I talked to his teacher and she's like, yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff going around. It was not COVID. Got tested for all three of us. No COVID present, but they had a terrible like cold. My son Liam has a horrible immune system, horrible immune system. And so when he gets sick, I actually have to I have a nebulizer that I have to use to keep his breathing going because his lungs fill up with fluid like instantly. It's crazy to me, but every single time Liam has gotten sick, every time since he was a baby, he had to have a nebulizer right away because he just will wind up in the ER because he just can't breathe. It's a weird thing. His lungs don't have a lot of capacity or something. They fill up with fluid pretty much right away. So anyways, I was doing nebulizer treatments all night long, every 3 hours with Liam. When he got sick from Gavin, they were both sick, going back and forth with sneezing and coughing and having to do nebulizer treatments and medicine and trying. Liam slept for like 20 hours. It was the craziest thing. My son slept like, he went to bed at like 1 p.m. For a nap, woke up at 3, went back to bed at 4 because he wasn't feeling well still, and did not wake up until 5 o'clock the next morning. 13 hours, 14, 15, 16, 16 hours almost of sleeping. And I mean, the kid was out cold. And luckily both of them are doing much better. A lot of rest, a lot of humidifier and Vicks, whatever, and all sorts of. I don't take it lightly when the kids are sick. You got to invest all your time. So I got almost no sleep. So if it looks like I'm a Skeletor, yeah, I am. And it's been an exhausting. So this is my first day where I woke up, I took them to school, and I had nothing to do except for work here and do the podcast. And I'm so thankful for that. It's been 2 weeks. I went to breakfast at my breakfast spot, and you have no idea how much I missed it. No idea how much I missed it, because I have just been running nonstop, exhausted, traveling 7 flights in 7 days. It was not fun. But I'm doing what I love, so I can't complain too much. And again, I always feel so terrible when I complain about anything, because I know what teachers are going through right now, and I do feel like maybe I'm oh wow, you had to stay home with the kids sick. Did you have to worry about sick pay or anything? No, I didn't, because I do have a savings. I've kind of put some money aside, which is good. So I do worry, there's teachers out there that, can't afford to stay home with their kids when they're sick, can't afford time off. And that's not good. And I definitely want to hopefully change that narrative. I've been putting out some videos on Facebook and YouTube, kind of some rants lately. I do have comedy videos on the way, but I just wanted to share some stories. And I've been reading a lot of stories about what other teachers are going through, and it's crazy. I might showcase some of them, and I don't mind like showcase some of them, like, hey, look what happened. I mean, like, kind of expose, like, extra kind of thing, where we talk a little bit about some of the things that teachers are going through, hopefully to make change and awareness. But I do feel sometimes like maybe teachers, the reason we're not really getting our point across is because we're just talking and complaining to other teachers. We really need to take this up to a higher level, and hopefully, the unions do that for us, and hopefully the government steps up soon, but we'll see. All right, now it's time to go into this week's edition of Teachers in the News.
From classrooms to chaos, we searched high and low for the craziest teacher stories this week. Here are your Teachers in the News.
All right. Teachers in the News has some maddening news today, and also some uplifting news, some good stuff too. Where I live, Polk County, Florida, we have been in the news because we have just hired 60 international teachers to fill our vacancies, which, by the way, that probably fills about 5% of the vacancies across Polk County. That said, it's great that we're inviting these, international teachers over here. I think that's wonderful. We should give them an opportunity to teach. I feel absolutely terrible for them, though, because Polk County, Florida is quite possibly one of the worst introductions that they can have to A, the United States, and B, to our education system. It's broke. It's not working here. It's not good. Low pay, very little support, lack of respect. The parents here are atrocious, and the children are quite out of hand. There's a lot of issues that need to be worked on, and I feel like we're kind of throwing these people to the wolves. I mean, I would be very surprised, if they're probably contractually obligated, but B, I would be surprised if any of them stay. They are giving housing, which is good. Hopefully they'll stay here and enjoy their life, and maybe because they're kind of in a new country, they can spend time really prepping and working with the kids and things like that, because they're able to concentrate fully on their job and not worry about paying that rent. Hopefully that's good. But again, I just don't know. And I feel like, one of the things that made me so mad is one of the quotes that I see at the end of this article, because they're talking to our new superintendent, which, I give him the benefit of the doubt, seems like a nice guy. However, he says, we're going to have to, this is his importance of public education speech. This is what he said. We're going to have to do a better job of marketing public education and all the benefits that people get from it. It is a true investment. It is a calling. And I hate this next line. People don't go into education for the monetary reward. They go into it because many of them are servant leaders. It is time to stop thinking like that. It is not a monetary reward. It's not a monetary reward. It is a standard of living. It's about paying your bills. It's not you sitting here thinking that you're going to get wealthy. No, but it's also not worrying about your next rent payment. It's not worrying about where the food's going to be put on the table. Costs are rising, and teachers have never, ever been treated well in this county. And to sit here and say that teaching is a monetary reward, to compare it to, some sort of benefit, like we're, pets that are being tossed a bone. No, we're pets that aren't being fed. We don't have anything in our bowl to begin with. You can't feed a pet and go, hey, there's your reward. No, that's what you're supposed to do for them. Like that's not a reward. I hated that line. That's the kind of ancient thinking that is really holding teaching back. Teaching, it should not be a question of whether or not we are paid enough. It should not. They should already flat across the board nationally be paying teachers enough and above the poverty level line, middle to upper class. And I think definitely upper class should be considered. We just gawk at it, but it's one of the most important roles that any person can have. We are educating a populace. Thousands and thousands of children in this district depend on teachers to do a good job, and you're not paying their wages. When like I've said before, I started working at Longhorn waiting tables, and I got hired right away. And the first thing the guy said is, he said, oh yeah, I hired you right away because I saw you were a teacher. And we have so many teachers on staff, and they always work so hard, and they're really good. And at first I was like, that's awesome, thanks. And then I was like, also, that's sad that so many teachers have to work second jobs here. I mean, think about the quality of education that we could provide if we didn't have to worry about going to our next job after our first job. So anyways, all right, next one. This one was outrage across the nation. One of the top trending topics on Twitter. I'm sure you read about it. A South Lake school leader in the lovely state of Texas tells teachers to balance Holocaust books with opposing views. Teachers in the district said they fear being punished for stocking classrooms with books dealing with racism, slavery, and apparently now the Holocaust. This executive director for curriculum and instruction made the comment last Friday afternoon during a training session. Just remember the concepts of House Bill 3979. Make sure you have a book on the Holocaust and that you have one that has an opposing view or other perspectives. And somebody said, how do you oppose the Holocaust? One teacher's response was, and he said, believe me, that's come up. Well, that's a non-answer. That's not exactly what you say. The district has gone quiet. They just haven't said anything. But of course, everybody else says it's absurd. How can you be this way? Let me tell you what this all boils down to. I'll tell you the exact problem that this boils down to, and most educational problems boil down to. And if you don't believe me, you've not been in education long enough. The problem here is that you have too much of a distance from somebody that is able to make a decision based on a moral grounds, based on an outside mindset. And what I mean by that is you have teachers, and they're given rules and guidelines, and they have to follow them by the book. And if they don't follow them by the book, then that question of if they've violated the rules goes on to the next person. Well, that next person is a long line of middlemen who have to keep their jobs. and they keep their jobs by enforcing rules as they are written in books. Opposing views, let's say, was written down ages ago. Somebody said, if you have something supporting this, it has to support that. That's for more opinionated stuff, and obviously religious things that have already been decided by the courts. But when it comes to things like the Holocaust, they are afraid to step out of the guidelines that are handed in front of them, because they have a superior that is going to go, did you follow the guidelines? Because that superior does not want to make a judgment call. They don't want to make a moral call. They don't want to have to be um, held responsible for their opinion, for their actions. And so, because we have all these middlemen, they have dissected and kind of looked at the books, and they have no ability to fight anything with logic or reason or any sort of anything outside of what that rule says. That's why he specifically stated the House bill that they have to follow. And this is the problem, is that person, I guarantee, knows that the Holocaust is real. That person, I guarantee, knows that everybody, 99% of people, sane people, think that the Holocaust is real. They know the Holocaust is real. They don't think, it's a fact. But that person is so bound by the rules and regulations, the bureaucracy of it all, that they're afraid that if they don't make a statement that covers their butt in relation to whatever it is they're arguing, or whatever rule it is, they'll be fired by the person above them that will play by the book. So you have all these people that are playing by the book, and the people that can make the actual calls, the superintendents, the people that are higher up, are so unattainably unavailable for any sort of emotional decision, for any sort of anything. They're no longer deciding anything. All they're doing is cleaning up the mess that the rules make below them. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to people. But the reason things like this happen, not just this, but things like are not good in schools right now, is nobody is able to step outside the box. That's why COVID was such a disaster, is because everybody was trying to play by the playbook. Nobody is able to call audibles in teaching. Nobody's able to call audibles because there's somebody above them that they know is going to fire them if they don't do the playbook. And that's why we can't win the damn game, because we see that the defense is changing. We see things that are happening, and nobody can call an audible because we don't have a quarterback. Our quarterback is sitting in the suite up top, and has the door locked and has no communication. And that's the superintendents up there. That's the politicians up there. And they're not able to make calls. But if we mess up, if the team messes up and we don't, score the touchdown, they'll come out of their office, they'll come down to the field and yell at us and tell us what we did wrong. They won't give us the advice on the way, but they'll just tell us what we did wrong. And that's the problem. That's the problem with teaching. People don't realize it, but the problem is we have too many middlemen and too many rules that can't be bended or broken, and that try to fit and encompass and have umbrella everything that has to cover everything, and it just not working. It's not working. End of rant. Sorry, I got a little serious on that one, but that stuff frustrates me. If you're telling me a kid needs to have the opposing view of the Holocaust, you're out of your mind. And that's when we need to just say, all right, line drawn, but it shouldn't even got to that line. That's beside the point. All right, next one. A Massachusetts teacher is apparently lost her job due to a social media post. She produced a video in May during her run for a seat on the Bourne School Committee. So apparently was a teacher running for the school committee. And in the TikTok declared that she ran for office to make sure that students wouldn't choose their gender and are not being taught critical race theory. So she said it's one thing to include, and it's one thing to be inclusive, and it's one thing to educate everybody about everything. It's completely another thing to push your agenda. Thing. Oh, whatever. With me on the school board, that won't happen in our town. Pushing an agenda. Come on. When you start thinking racial issues and somebody's preferred gender or sexual orientation or any sort of anything that's none of your damn business is pushing an agenda, then you lost my vote. Good thing they didn't win. But anyways, school has the right to terminate her without cause, as she has not worked 90 days yet for the school. So apparently she got a teaching job after she lost the run, and hopefully she's done with the education system. But knowing how things work today, she'll probably be a senator in 2 years. All right, coming up next. Sorry, I told you folks I had a long week. I've got a lot of pent up frustrations in me. Everybody's probably listening to this like, oh, he's going on a rant today. Yeah, a little bit. So, all right, this is an interesting one. The Arkansas Department of Education finds a solution to its teacher shortage. Yay. Oh, wait, never mind. They didn't. They just found another way to get high school students on the path to become a teacher, earning college credits before stepping foot on a college campus. It is just a residency model. Same thing that we've already discussed. It is the same thing that does not work because these students don't want to go into a residency to teach anyways. And it's basically just luring them in early, locking them in with contracts, and they have to complete this. They get a 2-year degree at no cost to them. You know what's an easy way to get a 2-year degree at no cost to you? Just apply for scholarships and grants and go to community college. It's pretty easy. It's not as hard as people think to get a free 2-year degree from a community college. You can also get ones online for substantially cheaper. Now, I get it. They're going to pay for their 2-year degree. Great. But you're also locking them in on a contract that they have to teach when they get out of the school. And, I hate that we're preying on 18-year-olds. I don't think that children, which they are in a position to make these sort of future career decisions when they've never entered or stepped foot in the career that they are trying anyways. I've always thought it's ridiculous that we saddle a child with $60,000 plus in student debt on a career that they have to decide when they have worked the extent of their career experience is working at McDonald's. They need to try out different careers. They need to, spend some time, bouncing around from job to job, finding out what they want to do. We're saddling them with debt early on, and you're locking them into contracts for a career that they're not sure if they want. They're not sure. Now, again, there are some people that are pretty passionate about it and say, yeah, I want to be a teacher. My mom was a teacher. My grandmother was a teacher. I want to continue the teaching, very traditional style model. Okay. Maybe something like that would work for them. But I just think there's a lot of students that are going to be rather disappointed when they finally become a teacher and realize that they have to teach or they have to pay back that education that they just got. And they're in a position that they're not happy in. And then they lose out on other job opportunities and careers they could have been starting where they would have been a lot happier. Disagree with it. So, all right, last one. This one's an interesting one. A teacher in Denver is suing the university that she apparently worked at. She says she was barred from her campus because of a rumor that she had COVID-19. Apparently, her boss forwarded an email to the Department of Occupational Health saying she couldn't return to work until she was cleared from COVID-19. She said, I'm vaccinated. I've taken every precaution. I don't know what you're talking about. She said somebody said that they heard you had tested positive for COVID, had it, and were showing symptoms. And she responded, did you hear what I just said? Somebody said they heard I have it. It's hearsay. Apparently, they decided to investigate a report, but apparently this person was barred from entering the building. And get this, they were barred before they were ever talked to. She said that's the problem, is that they never called her. They made all these decisions and put out all the wheels in motion without calling her and saying, hey, we heard you had COVID. Can you confirm or deny? And apparently she would have denied, but I guess she's going to sue him. I don't know what she's going to sue him for, but I mean, maybe lost pay. I don't know how long she was out, but that's kind of a smaller lawsuit, I would say. I don't think that one's going to hold much ground. There is another one too, another story, and I'll just say this one briefly. Missouri governor is facing backlash and ridicule. Apparently, he threatened a reporter who discovered exposed teachers' social security numbers. Apparently, the Missouri teachers, administrators, and counselors were vulnerable to public exposure due to a flaw on the website maintained by the state's Department of Education. Apparently, a reporter broke that story on Thursday and said that social security numbers in this database had been collected and hacked, and over 100,000 of the state teachers' information was made available and or vulnerable to exposure. And apparently they contacted the governor, and the governor doubled down on his threats, threatening legal action against the newspaper for talking about that, and apparently doubled down on it on Twitter, and nobody has taken this person's side. But yeah, I don't know. It's what can you say? It's Missouri. I mean, and that's the thing. Oh, you know what's funny is I'm going to tour Missouri, and it'll probably be a year or two from now, and the first thing I'll step on stage, and somebody will boo me because of that comment. But anyways, it's been fun. I tell you what, if nobody listens to this podcast today, it was great stress relief for me. I had a good time. I don't know about you all, but boy, did I get some stuff off my chest. Sometimes I wonder if this is just therapy for me, or if it's an actual public service to the teachers out there. Who knows? I do have more comedy videos on the way. I've written several, and they're great. I got some TikTok stuff out, and I got more TikToks on the way. I'm going to start posting more on Instagram too. IG Reels has apparently reached out to me. They want me to publish some stuff over there. And so if you're not following me already, at Devin Siebold over on the IGs. And just be sure to check out devincomedy.com for upcoming tour dates. Don't forget as well, I do speaking at schools. Let me tell you right now, I'm going to read this real quick because I know that you're probably not going to believe me. Oh, by the way, I did want to give a shout out, special shout out to our new Patreon member, Kurt. Kurt signed up for Patreon, and I think we had another Patreon member, Patty and Kurt. Appreciate you. But let me tell you right now. So let me tell you, this is what I got. Okay. From my last convention. This is the keynote. It says, hello, Devin. Hope this email finds you well. Oh, wait, hold on. That's an early one. Good morning. Hope your travels have gone smoothly. Thank you again for joining us this week. Attendee feedback was through the roof. It was 5 stars across the board, and talk of your session has continued into this week. It was a hit. Thank you so much. If you want me to speak at your event, it is not boring. I do not have PowerPoints that I read off of. I don't have boring material that is going to put your teachers to sleep or make your event irrelevant. It is laugh a minute. It is funny. It is exciting. And it is, above all, very informative. It's stuff you don't really think about. A PD that, trust me, has never been done before. There's nothing like it out there. And I pride myself in it. And the feedback so far has been phenomenal. I worked really hard on it. So if you want that, just be sure to reach out. I can give you the Speakers Bureau info. They handle all the bookings and everything. I don't handle it anymore. But I did want to say, if you're interested, I can speak for your whole district, wherever you want. Just send me a message. So anyways, thank you so much for supporting the podcast. Patreon.com/crying in my car. We'll be back next week with a brand new podcast right here on Crying in My Car, a podcast for teachers.
Be sure to subscribe and rate this podcast 5 stars. Submit all your awesome teacher stories to cryinginmycar@gmail.com and check out Devin on tour. Info and merch can be found at devincomedy.com. Support the podcast on patreon.com/cryinginmycar and get exclusive weekly bonus episodes. And tune in every week for more hilarious stress relief for teachers right here on Crying in My Car, a podcast for teachers.